Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. Today is the 21st of March. It's 2019. Stand by because I have to mute this. I already did. Look at that. We got 272 people that have been waiting. So let me jump into the chat real quick. Say what's up. I don't know if a mod can actually take somebody out for saying that I was eating an egg McMuffin, but if it bothered you, I guess it bothers me. At any rate, Super Dave 44, what's up, brother? Awakened by the looking glass reflection. Yay, whoop-de-whoop, indeed. DJ Testa, what's up? Exposing the dirty few. We are indeed rolling. Just believe. What's up? Wake Up News, what's up? Summer Smith, what is up? Skylo, what's up? I can't say that, so there's that. Hopi NG, what is up? Mike Hansen, what's up? What's up from Lowell? What's up from Haverhill? What is up from Boston? All right, so check this out. I'm on the road the other day. I'm driving, and like I said, when I'm on the road, that's when I usually get most of my good quote-unquote research in, and I'm listening to the Sage of Quay podcast. It's a YouTube channel as well, and I listen to him all the time. The only thing I don't like is he doesn't allow comments, which is kind of weird because if you're trying to spread information and open up a conversation, the best way to do that is to open up the comments, but to each his own. At any rate, I'm listening to this kid that he's talking to, and I'm sitting there going, damn, that dude's got an accent. You know what I mean? Listen to how he talks. That's ridiculous. And I went, wait a minute. That sounds really, really familiar. And then the kid's talking about the Mandela effect. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll listen, maybe I won't, but whatever. He starts talking, and all of a sudden he starts saying stuff like, the Bible's been changed. 9/11 wasn't actually, Pearl Harbor wasn't the second greatest attack on America since 9/11. And then he drops the big one. He tells me that Ed McMahon was not the guy that showed up with the big check and the balloons at people's doors for Publishers Clearinghouse. His name is Brian Staveley. Is that correct? Do I have that right? Am I on it? What's up, kid?
Yeah, you're on it, bro. Brian Staveley, for sure.
How did you fall down this rabbit hole, brother? Break it down. Go as long as you want.
A long time ago, actually. I want to say it was either late 2014 or sometime in the early 2015. A friend of mine had actually sent me. It was just straight up just a meme that he had made or somebody had made, and it showed the Berenstain Bears, and it showed what it currently is now, the Berenstain Bears.
Like this?
Exactly like that, Richie. And I know that that might be a small thing for somebody, but that got me enough to be interested because I'm 41. When I went to school, we always had these like book club things where you would get books in the mail. They would come to school. You get 5 or 6 books if your parents wanted to buy them for you. And I always got Berenstein with an E, not an AIN. And the thing that a lot of people will say is, oh, well, companies can change, books can change their titles, products can change. But what the thing is with the Mandela effect is this has always been AIN now in this reality. So if you own the book and it's been in your house, Richie, you know what'll happen. You'll pull it out and it's going to say stain with an A, not an EIN. So that just threw me for a loop right there, bro.
Well, check this out. The reason I even have this book is because a few years ago, I think in 2016. Now, I don't know how long you followed me or how long your subscribers have followed my channel, but I used to have Anthony Patch on as like a co-host. We did a thing for several months. I went down to a conference that he was at, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we were covering CERN and the D-Wave quantum computer for the longest time. And when the Mandela effect popped up, I looked at it on its face. People were telling me it was changing the Bible, et cetera. So I pulled out a Catholic Bible and I did a video and I said, I left it at Mandela effect debunked. There it is. I just said people were misremembering. I was basically saying back then what the mainstream's saying now until I saw the Tank Man, Tiananmen Square. The guy, I was alive when that happened. A lot of people were alive when that happened, but I recall before mainstream was all blood and guts, fear porn and terror, they came out with that and they were saying, before you watch this, be really careful because it's horrific, it's terrible, it's bloody. And then suddenly the tank doesn't run over the guy anymore.
Yeah,
And
and it
quite
died
the
over.
opposite. The guy jumps on the hood of the tank now, according to them. That freaked
Insane.
me out.
Insane. It's absolute insanity. He climbs up on top of the tank now like it's a victory over the tank, whereas it was completely opposite of that before.
Well, we were talking about this before we went live, and we spoke about this a little bit the other night. He wouldn't be famous for simply standing in front of the tank. As a matter of fact, communist China at the time, I mean, these guys had they were having a free speech rally, and the government called in soldiers and tanks, and lots of people got killed. If this guy stood down the tanks, he wouldn't be famous for that. He got crushed, and it was horrific. That coupled with 9/11. No, I'm not saying 9/11, am I? That coupled
Yeah.
with JFK. 9/11 didn't even play into it until I heard you on the Sage of Quay the other day. You want to tell us about that? The Black Tom that all of us learned about in high school?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, absolutely. Because Black Tom is my number one, and then if you want, we'll get into the JFK.
Have at it,
Black,
brother.
yeah. Well, why don't I hit the JF? Yeah, let's hit the Black Tom first. Because for me, right, and probably like you, Richie, and probably like many, many, many people that are listening. Now, we all come out different roads into research, but so many of us came through 9/11. I think everybody could agree with that. Not all of us, but a large majority of the truth community came in through the 9/11 roads. So we all saw the 9/11 documentaries. All, you can name them all, whether even if it's Alex Jones level stuff, and most of that stuff really is Alex Jones level stuff. All those documentaries are riddled with disinformation. But one theme that they always preached was how Pearl Harbor was the first foreign attack on U.S. soil and 9/11 was the second. We heard it over and over and over. And this is the same that we learned about in school. Well, the problem is now, allegedly, you know, that timeline would completely not make sense because now there was a first attack. And not listen to how absurd this is. And you guys have never heard about this in school, never heard about it on 9/11 or in your research after around the 9/11 community or any of these terrorism type false flags, hoaxes, whatever you think they are, any of your research. Have you ever heard of Black Tom? I say that, Richie, and people are like, who the hell is Black Tom? Well, Black Tom is an event, and in 1916, supposedly 2 German spies snuck in through New Jersey, blew off 100,000 pounds of TNT, right? And it was so bad it was felt in Philadelphia, measured 5.5 on the Richter scale. And here's the best part: it supposedly damaged the Statue of Liberty so bad, Richie, that nobody ever in history from that point on, from 1916, nobody has ever been to the torch in this reality. It's never been open. People that are Mandela affected have actually gone there. There's a guy, Reality Shifter. He went there and did a video there a couple of years ago to go and question people that work there and everything. Nobody has ever, according to them, nobody has ever been to the torch. I've spoken to people that have been to the torch, Richie.
So I talked to you last night. We're bouncing back really bad. You got anything on?
Nothing.
Let me check. It might be me. Stand by. Technical difficulties. At any
All right.
rate, I talked to you last night. One of my neighbors, his wife is she's addicted to being educated. She's a really, really, really smart woman. Sometimes to the point that she's your usual condescending Bostonian type person. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I start telling him a couple of things, and it turns out that these people were married and they almost had a Star Wars theme to their marriage, which kind of freaked me out. I'm like, are you kidding me? My neighbor starts pulling out cases and cases of Star Wars figures, et cetera, et cetera. And I told him about C-3PO's silver leg, and they didn't believe it. And then I actually got her to start typing, and she started typing in the Black Tom incident. She is a major in history. She never once heard of it. And in 1986 or 84, he visited the torch at the Statue of Liberty, like so many people have. And according to the new information that's out right now, apparently no one's, am I accurate? Nobody's been to the torch since
Nobody.
1916?
People have been to the crown, to be specific. People have been to the crown, but
Right.
not to the torch, because people will try and say, oh, you're confusing the two. We are not confusing the two. And the crazy part is, Richie, any pictures of people being in the torch, they're gone. They're gone. And that might sound crazy, but as we get more into this, you'll see how things are actually changing physically, and documentation of things, they're just gone. Absolutely gone. It's crazy to think we wouldn't have heard about this. This is why this is my biggest Mandela effect, because I spent so much time in 9/11, years and years and years, so many shows and everything, as a lot of people did. To think that we wouldn't have heard about this in school, then I wouldn't have heard about it with all my research. That's why it's personal to me. But on top of it, Richie, no matter what your opinion is of these events, you know that the government and the media is going to throw the patriotism down your throat like they did with 9/11. And this thing happened fucking down the street from it, man. And they never mentioned it? Come on, dude. It's the Statue of Liberty. It's supposed to be the symbol of freedom of America, right? So we're attacked on 9/11, and, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the story. But that story, and then they don't mention this. There's no tie-in for when the New York was hit on another terror attack. Come on, man.
And I love how they throw this Our Lady of Sestachawa Catholic Church in Jersey City, New Jersey, that has the commemorative stained glass window in the front just to back up the entire story. But let me ask you, let me double check that, make sure I'm right here. Did you say that two Germans snuck into New Jersey with 100,000 pounds of TNT?
No, two Germans snuck in through New Jersey and blew up a munitions depot that had
Oh,
a.
okay.
They didn't carry the explosives in. The stuff was already here, and they sabotaged it or whatever. I think they went.
Absolutely
I think they.
unbelievable.
Dude, come on, we never heard of it. And the crazy part is, Richie, people will say this to me about these historical ones, because we're going to get into all different categories, movies, music, but the historical ones are obviously huge. But what people will say, Richie, is, oh, you just don't know history. So I'll say to them, well, have you heard of Black Tom? And every single one of them hasn't. Nobody has. How can we all just write that off, dude?
And the other thing, too, like we've got another guy from Boston, the alien scientist. Jeremy is a physicist. I believe he went to MIT. Jeremy Reese. He did all the who did 9/11, who was behind it, how the money was moved. He broke it down completely and turned it into basically Die Hard on steroids, but he broke it down really well. The one thing that stuck with everybody, including out of George Walker Bush's mouth, was the biggest attacks since September 11th. Everybody that did research on this remembers that the Project for New American Century said, we need to change history completely, but we need another Pearl Harbor. And they shoved that down our throat for years. The worst attack since Pearl Harbor, the worst attack since Pearl Harbor. I never heard of Black Tom till I heard you on the Sage Aquay the other day. So this totally freaks me out. And like I said, my neighbor is a major in history, and she never heard of this and didn't believe it when she punched it up and saw it for herself.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it doesn't matter if you believe that this event is real, fabricated, false flag, hoax, whatever. It wasn't in our timeline. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't, the details, it's just absolutely insane business. Insane. Can we touch on Ed McMahon real quick before I let it pass my mind?
Oh, no. We can pull up Ed McMahon. Have at it. I've got some video here, so let me see if I can find it while you start talking. So have at it, brother.
And we'll do Ed McMahon, and then we'll kind of bounce back to JFK. All right, so we'll do
All
that
right.
next. So Ed McMahon. Okay, now when I everybody knows, and this is why I say everybody is affected by the Mandela effect, and at different levels and whatnot, and that'll be for later in the show. But because everybody knows that Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. Okay, he is actually from my hometown where I am right now, where I have lived my whole life. Ed McMahon is from Lowell, Massachusetts. Everybody here knows he worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He used to go around, right, Richie? What did he go around and do door to door?
He dropped off the big checks. He had the balloons, and he had the little white van that said Publishers Clearinghouse right down the side.
Yep. And if you go around and you look for what we call residue, for those that don't know exactly what residue is, let me explain that real quick. So what residue is, when something changes in this reality, there will often be residue left behind, like Richie's showing right now on my intro there, the Golden Girls intro. Okay, she's going to answer the phone and say, "What? I'm the winner of the Publishers Clearinghouse. Ed McMahon wants to see me right away." I mean, that's specific. How could you say we're misremembering? Everybody that's watching this right now, you all know Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. So just because you're told now that it's never happened, you will not be able to find any video of him doing it, any of the commercials. They're completely erased from history. But that doesn't mean you need to doubt your memories, because we all match each other. How could we have the exact same match in memory of some random celebrity doing some specific prize thing, down to the detail Richie spoke about? Balloons and a giant check. If you go online, you can see, if you look, say, Ed McMahon costumes, this is a great way to look for residue. You will see so many people dressed up like Ed McMahon on Halloween, and they always got a giant check and balloons, a check from Publishers Clearinghouse. Now, what Richie was showing right there is Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was Ed's, not Ed, Ed was his sidekick for 30 years on the biggest TV show at night, on the Tonight Show. Johnny is going on David Letterman as a joke, and he literally says, "I'm sorry, Ed McMahon couldn't be here tonight, but you're the lucky $1 million winner, Dave." And it even says Publishers Clearinghouse on the top of the check. So to think that we're all misremembering, it's absolutely crazy. Richie, this one everybody knows, and personally, I think we could rename this thing the Ed McMahon effect. I think that's stronger than the Mandela effect as a name. I do, and it was suggested by a viewer of mine, and I love it, man, because so many people have told me Ed McMahon is their number one. There is nobody that's going to tell them Ed McMahon didn't work for Publishers Clearinghouse. I like to do polls on Facebook, and I'll ask people these Mandela effects. I won't phrase it as a Mandela, but I'd be like, who's the spokesman for Publishers Clearinghouse? And everybody will say Ed McMahon, and I don't even post them in Mandela type groups. I put them on my wall so it doesn't get skewed. Everybody knows.
Well, it freaks me out because when I was listening, while I was driving, while I was listening, I started texting people. And I left it open ended. I just asked everybody that I know, people from 72 years old to 29 years old. I said, "Hey, do you remember the name of the guy that used to work for Publishers Clearinghouse?" Every single one of them came back with Ed McMahon. And once I heard that, and once I started looking into it, and they're claiming that he never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, even though you can see the biggest talk show host ever, Johnny Carson, was the top of the pile. That's all there is to it. He's mimicking Ed McMahon with a check right there that says Publishers Clearinghouse right on it. Do you know what I'm saying? And yet now they're telling us we're not remembering that correctly whatsoever at all. When I first started, when I put up a couple of videos, maybe in 2016, maybe even 2015, where I was trying to debunk the Mandela effect, because everything that people were putting forth at the time were like, hey, the way this is spelled is slightly different. And I kept thinking to myself, when you put things out, movies, songs, anything that's hooked up to a digital arena can be changed somehow, some way. But things like Black Tom, things like George Walker Bush's George W.'s alleged assassination, Ed McMahon not working for Publishers Clearinghouse, then I started looking into it. And then as soon as I did, it's just insane how much stuff has literally started changing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Oh, it's fucking pure insanity, bro. Pure insanity. But like what you were saying about things can digitally change, so like, but the historical events can't, or whatever. Things can digitally change, but it's a little deeper than that. So like when we talk about things like Star Wars and C-3PO, which you brought up a few minutes ago, let's talk about Star Wars for a minute. See, the thing with the Mandela effect is that a lot of people don't understand on the surface, and I get that. Just like you didn't understand with some of the Bible stuff maybe in the beginning, when these things change, yes, and especially Star Wars, people say, Brian, yeah, so what? C-3PO has a silver leg now. You know how many versions of Star Wars there are? There's Blu-ray release. There's the time they put the CGI in, and they're right. There's like 7, 8 different versions. And when I'm talking about Star Wars, I'm talking about the original trilogy. Ignore the prequels. Ignore the new movies. The 3 original big ones. C-3PO now has a silver leg. But the problem is, Richie, it's not a digital download thing or somebody messing with you online, because your own copies in your house have changed, and you can get any version you want, and he's gonna have the silver leg in there. And tell people because I always tell people about what Anthony Daniels, the actor for C-3PO, actually said. And how believable is this conversation that you think this actually took place? Because I don't buy it.
Oh, it's crazy. It's great. I can't stand these ad blocker things, man. I just tried to
Oh,
pull it up, but yeah,
oh,
apparently.
what he says is, one day, because all these people, when these things change, we're questioning these people, especially on like Twitter and whatnot. People are hitting this guy up like, hey, well, how are you gonna, how do you have a silver leg now in Star Wars? You were always all gold. Everybody knows that. And he actually said, oh, well, one day my stills photographer on the set said, why do you have a silver leg now? And I said, I've always had it. Dude, you're telling me the stills photographer for Star Wars didn't realize that the actor had a silver leg the entire time? This would be the person that would have the most expensive camera equipment in the industry working for friggin' George Lucas.
And his job is to take photos that will, that'll end up in magazines, on television, etc. It's totally crazy. When I in 1977, I turned 10 years old. My parents took me to see Star Wars because that's when it came out, and we saw it. And he never had a silver leg whatsoever at all. And I've talked to a lot of people since I heard you on the stage at Quay, and they all agree with the same thing. It freaks me out. I just tried to open up the page where the actor himself is claiming that the leg was indeed silver, but it's behind the paywall. So we're going to have to save that for another day. But I believe that you've got that all over your channel. And you also mentioned there were some other changes with pictures you took yourself, no?
Yeah,
Something
so
about black gloves.
Yeah, so what happens, Richie, is what are called incremental changes. And these are some of the best examples to prove this is real. So if people were to pay attention when we told them, hey, C3PO now has a silver leg, so we're watching Star Wars for more changes, it keeps changing. And at one point, when the silver leg thing happened, Richie, I told a buddy of mine about it. I told him, go check your Star Wars. He said, I don't have it, but pull out your copy and show me. So I put my copy in. I played it on my laptop on my VLC player, and I took a selfie of myself in front of the screen so he could see that it was my movie. Behind me, C3PO had the silver leg. And then about 8, 9, 10 months later, maybe even a year or so later, all of a sudden now C3PO has black gloves on his hand. They weren't there when I took that picture. You go back and look at my photograph now, and C3PO has black gloves on in my photograph that I took before it changed in the movie. That's crazy.
That's
That keep
that's crazy. But for the people that don't care about the people that don't take the films and songs and stuff like that, jump onto this one because you told me something crazy. We've all seen the Zapruder film a million times for the most part. And just real quick, here's the Zapruder film as we've all seen it, and it's showing a 6-seat car. And here's the museum. And here's an exact replica of the car that John F. Kennedy and Jackie Onassis sat in. As you can see, here's the rear view mirror. There's the president, his wife. This is where the driver, and this is where the governor sat. This is what Brian's telling us is residue. This right here is showing a 4-seater. This right here is showing us a 6-seater. So are you telling us at some point that you think that this may change into a 6-seater, or that it's possible?
it is it
Because
is
that's a
possible.
trip.
It is possible. It's definitely possible. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen because a lot of residue does remain. Some of it does change though. I've prepared for shows where I've had residue. This happened recently where I've had residue ready to display, and a few items of my residue actually changed, like the wording on it changed or whatever the change was. It changed before I could go live with it and present it. So it's pretty trippy stuff. With the JFK one, let's talk about this for a minute. You know, this is so huge because what I remember, Richie, and I know it's what you remember, is I remember a 4-seater. I also remember one of the most famous theories, and it wasn't clear cut, but one of the most famous theories was that the driver reached back like this, Richie, with his right hand, and you couldn't see that he was brandishing a weapon, but he had that motion back. And now, and the theory was that he shot Kennedy, but now that couldn't even happen. There's a whole windshield in his way. And to think that we're gonna misremember and misremember the car that JFK was shot in. But not only that, dude, when do you ever see a car with two windshields? I mean, you might have seen one in your life, and they exist. But how often do you see a car with two windshields? To think the president was assassinated in a car with two windshields, and we can't remember that distinct car, dude, we aren't idiots. So just because you have these rules of reality in your mind that these things can't change, it's impossible. Remember who gave you those rules of reality? Same people that gave you the 93 million mile away sun, the same people that gave you all these fake events, and I won't name them to get your channel in trouble, but you guys know what I'm saying. The same people. The mainstream science is where you get your idea and perception of what is real and what can actually happen. It's time to trust your senses, like we say in so many communities. Trust your memories. How can our memories all match such fine details on these events? And then let's talk about the Secret Service. The Secret Service, I don't remember the exact year, but it was like 3 or 4 years after the assassination. They did a recreation where they actually did a whole motorcade through the streets of Dallas. And in that recreation, where they are studying for ballistics and all this other stuff, right? They are actually using a 4-seater. Why would they use a 4-seater if it was a 6? And you know what these so-called skeptics will say to me? They'll say, oh, well, Lincoln just wouldn't, they wouldn't build them another 6-seater. Oh, as if Lincoln would have a choice. And dude, this is just like, let's put the 24/7 camera up on the moon and give us a full feed, right? It would pay for itself with the advertising. Could you imagine the advertisement dollars that would come in for Lincoln if they just gave the government a free car to let them roll around? It's the best free advertisement ever. You're going to recreate the JFK thing? Here's a car. We'd be glad to give it to you. And they had years to make it, dude. People that say that are ridiculous.
Well, we talked about that last night. Cadillac has been kicking Lincoln's ass for a long time. A lot of people roll Cadillacs. Lincolns are here and there. They're not like they used to be whatsoever. There is no way that Lincoln wouldn't whip up another one or didn't have another one in some museum someplace for the Secret Service to use over again. It's totally ridiculous. And if the Secret Service is going to go through all the time and energy and effort to recreate one of the most famous presidents and one of the most famous assassinations, they're going to recreate it wrong. The whole point, the whole test would be junk. How can you recreate something if you're using the wrong type of vehicle? You can't. You see what I'm saying? So you're right on it, man. That's crazy. And there's still, we're looking at it right now. There's still evidence that it was a 4-seater, even though the Zapruder film has changed. And you also told me another thing that I haven't quite had a chance to research yet, but you told me that there's more Zapruder films or Zapruder-like films of the assassination.
Yeah, they're not Zapruder because that's the guy who has that one.
No, I'm hip.
Yeah. There's about 10 different videos now that all just popped into existence for me. Maybe other people have all seen them, but they just popped into existence for me and many others like several months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe. There's even an angle from the grassy knoll, dude. Like, we would remember if there was an angle from the grassy knoll, because think about all the theories about the shooter from the grassy knoll. Well, how will we not ever have analyzed the perspective that actually shoots from the grassy knoll? That might be a telling video, no?
Right. Yeah, this is funny. There's a lot of stuff. Well, go ahead. I know you've got a list. Run with it, man.
Yeah. All right. So, another huge one. I want to talk about people's behavior as residue too. First of all, let me mention The Simpsons. We all know The Simpsons with predictive programming and whatnot. I'm sure all your viewers are hip to these types of things, right? I don't need to explain that, Richie. Yeah. So The Simpsons are also, and I'm not even pointing the finger at them for this. It's just because they've been on 30 years. And there's these other shows like The Big Bang, shows like Mad TV, Saturday Night Live. Anybody that does skit comedy, does parodies of things, The Family Guy, right? They all, every time they do something, whether it's C-3PO, Ed McMahon, Wizard of Oz, whatever they do, it matches our memory, dude. So if you watch The Simpsons and they do have an episode of the JFK assassination, there's a little clip of it, 4-seater rolling down the street. Was it too hard for the animators to draw a 6-seater? Is that the excuse?
Right.
Lincoln wouldn't make a car, and the Simpsons didn't want to draw 6 because it would have taken the guy an extra 5 minutes to draw it.
The Simpsons have been messing with humanity. What do we got? We got 9/11, the Boston bombing. We've got blocking the sun. How many others am I missing? Because the Simpsons shows everything, and it always Trump coming down the escalator, the guy dropping the sign, then it happens in real life. It's just absolutely insane, man.
Yeah. And another one that the Simpsons mocked is Timmy and the Well. And I want to talk about Timmy and the Well because this one
Dude, I didn't get a chance to say this to you, but do you know how many times in my lifetime I've pretended my dog was talking to me? What's that? Timmy fell down the well? I've done that a million times in this life. You're telling me that's not real anymore either?
Richie, not only have you no, it's not real anymore. Now that episode has never happened. Timmy never fell in a well. And I grew up, I'm a little younger than you, but I grew up with Lassie. I was watching reruns of Lassie on Nickelodeon. as many people probably were. And even at this age now, and I watch so many, there's not many episodes I can remember. The one episode I remember is Timmy in the Well. And if you and that's a fake clip right here that you're gonna see. No, that one is not gonna be Timmy's gonna fall in the well. They actually made a fake clip of one. So there's one now where Lassie falls in the well, Richie. Lassie falls in, not Timmy.
Yeah,
Lassie,
but
the dog, falls in the well.
that doesn't make any sense because Lassie went and got help for Timmy. That's why, what's that girl? She barks and they say, Timmy fell down the well. It wouldn't work the other way. So that just freaks me out as well.
There's
No pun
loads of
intended.
parodies of this on YouTube. If you just type Timmy in the well and just scroll down a little, you'll see. Dude, I put like 30 of them in my video, and there are people doing exactly what you said, Richie. So this episode's never existed. I distinctly remember Lassie going to town. She was so smart. She barked. People understood her. What's that, Lassie? What's that? Timmy's in the well.
Right.
And then save Timmy. There's people on YouTube that parody this over and over. So it's not we're just misquoting a song or spelling somebody's name wrong. Dude, there's people on YouTube that get their dog to bark. Woo, woo. What's that, Lassie? What? Timmy's in the well? And dude, I had a blast doing that video because it's so funny. The people are just goofy. You know what I mean? I had a great time. And it's everywhere. How are all these people doing that in unison if it's never happened?
This is freaking me out. This is freaking me out. I'm opening up a website. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called the Mandela Effect, alternate archives of the original Mandela Effect. Forrest Gump, 51 or 52 states. Nelson Mandela didn't die in prison, which is kind of freaking me out because I don't remember that. I mean, I remember he got released and they were talking about him running for president. So it's kind of funny. And I know the woman that started this whole thing is, what's her last name? Broom?
She didn't start it though. She gave the name Mandela Effect, coined the name to it in 2010, but people have been researching this a lot longer. This has been going on for a long time. I know a woman, Cynthia Sue Larson, she's been writing about it since 99. But she called it reality shifts. Fiona Broom popularized the term Mandela Effect. I don't think Mandela Effect's a great name because but the thing with the Mandela Effect is when something changes, right? And let's say we have evidence and all our memories match and we know that it's changed. It doesn't mean all these other people are wrong just because they didn't see it. But it also doesn't mean there's only two choices. There's more than two realities because some things we've seen have three different versions. And I think Nelson Mandela's death is one of those. And for that reason, I think it's a bad example to name this whole thing after because it's confusing. I think the Ed McMahon effect or something like that would be much better.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. That's never going to
No,
happen. Mandela Effect is
kill us
stuck.
in the search results. It would kill us in search results to try and change a name or anything. Let's talk about some other ones that should really hit people real quick, and we'll get back to some history ones. We're still going to talk about that
Have
GW.
at it. Dude, do your thing, man. Do your thing.
So one of the most famous quotes, I'm going to talk about a couple TV shows real quick, cartoons and whatnot. These are huge. One of the most famous quotes from any Disney cartoon when I was growing up, and any cartoon at all, was "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Mirror, mirror on the wall. Now, this has been repeated so many times in parodies, in songs like in Snoop Dogg, Slick Rick, De La Soul. All types of bands and artists have said "Mirror, mirror on the wall," mocking the Snow White. But the problem is now, if you put in Snow White, and I'm not asking you to go buy it at the store, I'm not asking you to download it, I'm not asking you to watch it on Comcast. You can take out your VHS tape that you've had for 30, 40 years, and you're going to put it in. She does not even say mirror, mirror. She says magic mirror on the wall. And that is so foreign to me and everybody. I was at my, there's so much residue of this. Nobody says mirror, mirror, magic mirror. Everybody says mirror, mirror. Dude, if you want to look for conversation, you can go on Twitter, and if you type in mirror mirror for say versus magic mirror, the amount is just staggering. Nobody says magic mirror. You type in mirror mirror, you'll find residue every day. Every day people are talking about that. But even better is they made a motion picture. I believe Julia Roberts is in it. They made a motion picture in maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago about Snow White, but they didn't use animation. They used actors. They did a full-on picture. They named the movie Mirror Mirror. So why are they naming it something that was never said? Are they misremembering too? The movie studio? No, because Mirror Mirror was the iconic quote. Mirror, mirror is in my intro. Homer Simpson. Again, The Simpsons, Richie. He's in the mirror. He says, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's, and he changes the end to something to fit the narrative, whatever that show was. But mirror, mirror on the wall. Always mirror, mirror on the wall.
Well, let me interject something that I already ran by you earlier. In my lifetime, and I mean everybody notices this is what's behind the anti-vaccine movement. This is what's behind so many things. As we get older and as technology progresses and as people get healthier and as we evolve, the biggest thing that's been happening is autism and Alzheimer's, and both of them are affecting the memory and your ability to communicate with people. And it seems strange that for people that don't suffer from either autism or Alzheimer's, everyone else seems to be susceptible to this new quote, misremembering. Everybody's misremembering everything. Because every one of these examples you've given me, I've run by people, and I've run them by people that, not that I hold people that have, master's degrees, associates, or any of that stuff, but these are people that are allegedly educated. You know what I'm saying? They did things the way Americans are supposed to, or whatever, and all of them are misremembering this stuff. Do you see what I'm saying?
People that don't even know each other, getting the details exactly the same, but all wrong, but exactly the same as each other.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody's misremembering, but the exact same way. Dude, we live in Boston. Love it or hate it, we get a lot of championships. Do you know how many times we've heard "We Are the Champions" being sung, and now suddenly at the very end he doesn't say "of the world"? And yes, I do have a phenomenal singing voice, but I choose to do this because it's more important. That's a true thing, right? That's gone now.
That's gone now, and now there is a lot more residue. It seems that some of the it's crazy. There's a lot of residue, but at first we only found a little bit of it. And one of the first few things that I ever saw, and I don't want to speak for other people, they might have found other shows, but the first couple of shows that I found it is now when music changes, when we say a song changed, again, it's not a re-release. The song will change in your possession. The official version will change. The official music video will change. Mostly all of the live performances will change, but sometimes there'll be one or two or maybe a couple more. Well, they will reflect what we remember. So I was showing a buddy this because he's about 5 years older than me, really into rock music. And everybody knows the song anyways, Richie. It doesn't matter what kind of music you're in. Again, we're not talking about an obscure thing. We're talking about Star Wars. We're going to talk about the Bible soon. We're talking about Queen. Everybody knows Queen. Everybody knows We Are the Champions. If anybody ever got up and did a parody of We Are the Champions, Richie, and they didn't say "of the world" at the end, you would be like, what the F was that? I mean, nobody would ever even do that. It's done on every show. The Big Bang Theory, The Simpsons, every championship around here. And if you're not from around here, say you're from New York, you guys have championships. Say you're from wherever you're from. Everybody's heard We Are the Champions of the world. At the end, dude, is how it goes. Now it just eerily fades out. They did two shows at Wembley, one in 85 and 86. Rolling Stones themselves are saying it. I show this people, and I showed it to one of my buddies, and he said, "Oh no, it was never on the album. This is just what you must have seen, and this is what you remember." I'm like, dude, I was born in 77. How am I just remembering this live show from Wembley in 85? I didn't have the internet, YouTube, and I never been to England. Come on, man. I remember what my uncles played in their car. I remember what was played at every bar. And then later in life, every parade we saw. It's always been of the world. And now it's not in there. And there's a lot of songs like that, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, for instance. Under the Bridge is the city I live in, the city of angels. He's talking about Los Angeles. It's filmed in Los Angeles. Now it says city of angel, singular. Small change for some people, but it's still changed, and it's changed in your possession. You can test me now. We're talking about Queen. We're talking about Chili Peppers. People have these albums. Pull the records off your shelf and go ahead and prove it wrong. I mean, you can't. Just like
Blood,
you can't.
Sugar, Sex, Magic, right? Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. I had that CD for the longest time, and I don't have it anymore. Before I forget, the reason that I have this book, the way that I chose or the way that I lived my life, I don't have very many boxes of memorabilia from when I was a kid. Many times in this life, I've had to completely restart from zero. But my aunt, I told her about this few years ago. I told her about the Berenstein Bears. She is a kindergarten teacher. And she's like, dude, it's Berenstein. I've got the books. I've got them in the basement. She went and dug this up. It took her a couple of months, but this is it.
Yeah, of course. Oh, it is.
And it's
Everybody knows.
totally changed.
Totally changed. That's a huge one for me. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead. You jump in the chat real quick. Jesus is the only savior said, you stood for something, Richie. You stood up for the living word. Now you're caving on it. The word of God isn't changing. I never said the word of God is changing. Words in books are changing.
Yeah. Let me talk on that, because I wanted to get into the Bible, and this is it's kind of one of my pet peeves. And let me turn my camera back on. And I don't mean to. I just want to explain myself. I don't mean to go with the guy in the chat. See, it doesn't matter.
Well, let's lay this out. This again, this is a King James version. This isn't the one that I did the video with a couple of years ago. This is a King James version that I paid a lot of money on eBay for. It's really old. It's hand sewn. It's incredibly old. You told me to open up Kings
23:5.
Kings 23:5. Now, for all those people that have been into the flat earth debate over the years, and for all of us Christians, we've always been able to say that if there was a such thing as a solar system or other planets or things to that effect, the words would be in the Bible. I had never once seen planets in the Bible. Now, I have a subscriber named Brooke Boatman who sent me an email, and I can't find it right now. I tried to use it, Brooke, but I can't find it. She's telling me that the word planets means it's a euphemism. It's something for something else. All right, I can't think of what the word is right now, but I personally had never seen the word planets in there until you told me to open it to Kings the other night, and there it was. Now, to all the Christians that are freaking out saying the word of God never changed, well, the word of God is in us. The word of God is from God. These are words in a book. I'm fairly certain that God didn't write this book himself. So I don't see how it changes anything on that particular tip. Do you see what I'm saying? But this physical book, I'm almost positive it didn't. It said constellations, and now it says planets.
And to even, it still says constellations in every other version except the King James right now. And the weird thing is, a lot of these Mandela effects, like the Lion and the Lamb and other ones, are hitting the King James first, and then they spread out. But the thing with this discussion, Richie, is, so many times in the flat earth groups, people have said, oh, the 200 passages in the Bible that talk about the stationary earth is fixed, the earth is immovable, all this stuff. Exactly.
Planets.
And then planets. And how many times have you heard in Christian-based flat earth versus globe debates, planets aren't in the Bible? So now you have a dilemma here, and we're going to talk about dilemma in a minute too. You have a dilemma here where, okay, were all you flat earthers lying to these globe believers and saying that planets aren't in the Bible when they were? No, and I'm not saying that. I don't believe that at all. Planets weren't in there, and you know it. But the thing is, when I go to show people this, Richie, they'll do two things. They'll either go into that word of God mode, like you talked about. The word of God can't change. Well, whether it's the word of God, the word of man, the word of an alien, the word of some other entity, whatever you believe in, that is irrelevant in this discussion. That's a discussion for another time. The word in the book that you have, even if it's been in your family since 1611, that King James, it has changed, and now planets is in there. So then if they actually do go look, they'll say, oh, well, that's a metaphor for constellations. So when you tell a globe believer that planets aren't in the Bible, they pull it out and it says the stars, the planets, and this and that. You're going to look them dead in the face and say, oh, that's just a metaphor for constellations, so planets aren't in the Bible. Like, come on, man. Come on. It's a totally flawed argument now because of the Mandela effect. And I'm not saying planets are real. I'm a flat earth. I don't believe any of that NASA stuff. But the argument now, I mean, this should resonate with all the flat earthers, I would hope. At least all the ones that have heard this discussion, which I'm not a Christian-based flat earth type person, but I've seen the discussions for years. It's everywhere. I've seen that comment millions of times, dude.
See, I'm watching the chat as you're speaking. So, right, a lot of people get it. Just because the words appear, because I'm no expert. I can't say that I've read Kings that many times that I can tell the word wasn't there, but I've argued it many times. If it was there, it would be in the Bible. You told me to open the Bible. The
Yeah,
word planets was there. But let me say this for all the subscribers that are catching it, because they're leaving it in the chat right now. They're saying that the word of God is inside of us. If you remember that planets wasn't there, you still got the word of God. So everybody's safe. Something is changing a lot of things. I'm watching the Zapruder film that I've watched a million times, and it's showing a 6-seater. I'm also over here at the museum of the assassination, and it's showing a 4-seater. So something without a doubt is going on. And for all you listening right now, you damn well know that Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, and now they're telling us they didn't. How many people have watched I Love Lucy? Just to put this less controversial one out for a minute, so people can catch on that this shit is for real. What doesn't he say anymore, Desi Arnaz?
Well, Desi Arnaz, for me, every time he came home nearly, and I don't want to say every episode, but very often when he came through the door, Lucy would be in some mischief, which seemed to be the theme of every show. He'd get home from work, and he would say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Now, we all know this phrase. This phrase has been parodied on many skits. For I think I put 3 of them from Mad TV in my I Love Lucy video. If you're listening, make sure you sub my channel. It's linked below. And check out my Mandela Effect short list. And I have short videos on JFK, I Love Lucy, breaking all these down. If you don't want to sit through a whole show and you're new to this, I think it's great. And like Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, every time they do an I Love Lucy skit, they say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Dude, the skit wouldn't even be complete if Ricky Ricardo didn't say it.
It's iconic, dude. I've heard that a bazillion times. So have you physically checked or seen people physically check stuff that they, like you said, pull it off the shelf? Has anybody actually done this and gone through it ad nauseum and it's completely gone? Because I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah, obviously I haven't gone through every episode of I Love Lucy myself, every episode of X, Y, and Z myself, but there are people that have, and ones like I Love Lucy and whatever. For every time that these things have been erased from existence, as far as like TV shows and movies and things changing, we haven't been bit on the ass once with it, with somebody coming up with the copy of it, really. Now, that brings me to an interesting point where supposedly we were bit in the ass once. And let me talk about Shazam, because this is huge. Okay, there is a disinformation campaign against the Mandela effect now. It's not big like, the disinformation campaign against 9/11 truthers or the disinformation campaign against the flat earth, but it's growing. So there's a lot of like these disinformation articles and stuff that pop up, but the big one is Sinbad. And I'm going to tell you about the Sinbad Mandela effect. A lot of people might actually already know about it, but it gets pretty deep. And then it seems that he is actually very controlled in what he is saying. So Sinbad, and there is just so many people that remember him playing a genie in a movie called Shazam, as you see on the title that you're showing right there. Now, Shaq did a movie a couple years later that we considered a ripoff because it was Kazam, and he was a genie as well. So, of course, they say we're mixing up the two, even though, I'm sorry, Shaq and Sinbad do not look anything alike. Nobody's going to mix the two of them up. Sinbad was a C-grade actor at best, and Shaq was the biggest basketball star at the time other than Michael Jordan. I mean, hands down. I mean, gigantic. Nobody was confusing the two. So people always ask Sinbad, Richie. They always send him tweets, and he makes these irrational responses online. Like, gets real triggered by, I never made that movie. You must be retarded if you think that. You people are yada. Dude, he goes nuts now. He sounds like Joe Rogan does against flat earthers. That's what he sounds like. But the crazy part is, Richie, the movie that we say never existed now, because then we all remember. I mean, it's all over talk shows, mainstream media. People bring it up. They don't say Mandela effect sometimes. They'll be like, yeah, Sinbad is the genie, Shazam. He went and made a fake clip. They had a whole production team film a fake portion of the movie, maybe 7-8 minutes long. He comes out in the genie costume, but he's like 47, 50 years old. He's clearly not Sinbad from 1994 or whatever year it was. So he clearly just filmed it, right? And in the clip where he's trying to portray that it's the Shazam movie, they lit it around it, residue of things that no longer exist because of the Mandela effect, like to mock us. So they put a Curious George book, which I know you want to touch on in a minute, a Curious George book with a tail. Now he's never had a tail. In this video, you'll see a Berenstein with an E, not an A. You'll see a Kit Kat bar with the dash. Fruit Loops in this reality has never been spelled fruit. It's F-R-O-O-T. But they put a regular box of Fruit Loops, like I remember, spelled fruit the normal way, in the video, mocking all of us. But at the same time, what it did, Richie, is with people that don't have discernment in the community, what do you think they did with this video? They ran with it as evidence. Oh, we found the Shazam clip. We found all this residue in it for the Mandela effect. And then what did Sinbad do? He came out a few weeks later and said it was all a joke. So it discredited everybody that presented that to people that were new to the Mandela effect. Luckily, this happened a couple years ago when it wasn't that big yet. But he's done recent interviews, and he comes out and just basically, like, you know how Joe Rogan will come out and call you all flat earth retards and all kinds of cuss words I won't even say. Sinbad's doing the same thing about us, and that we're all misremembering. He never made the damn Genie movie, and if we believe he was in a Genie movie, we must have been smoking crack with our mother in the basement. And dude, he goes off. It's crazy disinformation campaign. And I just see it coming, and people need to be aware of it. And if there is a disinformation campaign, this is obvious. There's obviously something going on here. To deny that this is happening, it's crazy. I mean, people can deny it, but one day they're going to wake up, and their whole world is going to be changed, you know?
Well, like I said, I was listening to you guys because I was driving, and as soon as I heard Ed McMahon, it got me on the hunt again. And as soon as I found out that that was no longer what I remembered correctly, I found a lot of them. And again, Black Tom, the second biggest attack since 9/11 on United States soil. I never heard of it. And all of us lived through 9/11. All we ever heard was Pearl Harbor, Pearl Harbor, Pearl Harbor. I mean, it was I've never heard of Black Tom in my entire life, and it's a stupid name anyway. I remember the Black Hand. I remember the Hidden Hand Society. I remember all those other different iterations, but never once this. Never heard that the torch was shut down and people couldn't go into it. You know what I'm saying? And I know people. I talked to people yesterday that were like, dude, I was in the Statue of Liberty's torch in like 1984 or something like that. They couldn't remember the exact year, but I mean, hopefully I can get pictures. But this is crazy, dude. Absolutely crazy.
It's real crazy. Well, speaking of Statue of Liberty, 9/11, and move back to the historical events, you know, all of our research, Richie, and everybody in the chat into 9/11, obviously the key figure in all 9/11 conspiracies is George W. Bush. And how many people out there in all your 9/11 studies or ever in any walk of life remember the George W. Bush assassination attempt? You want to say what you heard, what you thought when you heard me talk about
well,
this?
I'm thinking probably what we got 2,700 people watching. I'm going to guess 2,500 at least are remembering the time that a reporter threw a shoe at George W. Bush, and that was it. But apparently now in this new timeline, or in this changed wrinkle in time that we find ourselves in, or whatever exactly it is that's going on, apparently there was a 2005 attempt at Freedom Square that no one ever mentioned whatsoever at all, and now Wikipedia is showing it. May 10th, 2005, while President Bush was giving a speech in the Freedom Square in Tuskegee, Georgia, the country of Georgia, Vladimir Arudian threw a live Soviet-made RGD-5 hand grenade. He threw a grenade at George W. The grenade was live and it had its pin pulled, but it didn't explode because a red handkerchief was wrapped tightly around it, preventing the safety lever from detaching. After escaping, Arudian was arrested in July. During his arrest, he killed an Interior Ministry agent. He was convicted in January 2006 and given a life sentence. This is laughable because I don't know anybody that's ever heard this, and yet here it is. The guy threw a grenade at him, but fortunately there was a hanky wrapped around it so it didn't go off. I'm not sure how many people in my chat or how many of your subscribers have ever handled a grenade. I have several times. A hanky isn't going to stop it from exploding. So that's just dumb right there. In the Soviet-made ones, the old RGDs, they were really touchy. You pulled that pin, usually the guy throwing it was going to lose an arm. But I digress. Brian, what's up with this, man? When did this pop up?
I can't say I'm the one that found it. There was a small video out there before mine that somebody had made that sparked my interest in it, and I can't remember who the user was at the point. At this point, that was like I had just done a video on this probably less than a month ago. This popped up for me, and I had seen it in somebody else's video. And dude, this is just crazy for me. Again, Richie, let's get back to 9/11. I mean, come on, man. To think we wouldn't have heard about the George W. Bush assassination attempt that happened after 9/11, but right before we started researching it, it's insane. There would be memes everywhere of this. And the end of the story is even better, Richie. The end of it's even better because at the end of it, supposedly, they didn't catch this guy. They got him on surveillance and got him later. They sent the FBI back to the nation of Georgia to do an investigation, and then a firefight ensued. And this guy ended up killing the head of their counterintelligence unit of their whole agency. That's pretty big news. We didn't hear about that either. And what would the head of the counterintelligence agency even be doing out in the field in a firefight is what I want to ask. But those type of details, because the stories are so scripted anyways, but this was not in our reality before. I'm sorry, dude. This was not in our reality.
Have you found this any place besides just Wikipedia? Because the story you just told me doesn't even match the one they have right here. They said that he was, after escaping, he was arrested in 2005 and he killed the ministry agent, interior ministry agent.
I actually found it on Wikipedia. Maybe you just put in a different way to search it than I did. There's another page that brought it up. It actually has a photograph of the friggin' guy. That's the supposed surveillance footage of him with the red handkerchief in his hand.
See, and we were talking about this before we went live. I can see sometime in the future when everyone has to get a forced vaccination, when nobody's a male or a female, everything's completely blurred, and the new world order is enjoying their short time on this earth. And they're teaching everybody about how great of a president George W. Bush was and how everyone looked up to him and he was a peacemaker. And sadly, someone tried to kill him once in the country of Georgia. And by that time, it could change to the state of Georgia in the United States. Who knows? But this is totally tripping me out, man.
It's good because there are huge geography changes as well. And I'm not going to go through too many of them. I want to name a couple big ones to me. And I don't have a map up right now or anything, so I'm not going to sit here and, hey, look at this.
Stand by. I know which one you want, right?
Yeah, you know
what. Canal?
Yeah, man, come on. You know what the deal is. So in my reality, guys, where I come from, you'll want to look at a map of it, not a photograph, like, an overhead map of the world type thing. In my reality, guys, where I come from, South America. You want me to send you a picture, Richie? I got a great picture.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open it up. People know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll send you a. All right, yeah, I'll just skip that then. So,
go ahead, send it.
Guys, all right, hang on.
All right, let me jump in the chat. Who's this person? Jeremiah Walker. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I don't watch the chat all the time, guys. So if you're saying stuff, there's not a great chance that I'm seeing it. But if I look over, then I'm looking over. So if you say something and I don't get back to you, it's no disrespect. I just didn't see it. Hawk Davison said it was a shoe. Well, apparently the shoe has turned into a hand grenade. And fortunately, it didn't go off because it was wrapped in a hanky. So all is well.
The shoe incident still exists.
Did you send it?
No, I'm trying to I'm opening my Gmail right now, but
all right, do your thing. We'll amuse ourselves. Yeah. No worries.
Press the chat for a minute, and I'm bringing up my Gmail. And
I am. Okay, so Jen R said, "How old is your Bible?" Well, here. Check this out, Jen. It's really, really old. It still has the sewing pin from sewing the binder on the inside. Opens flat, and I'm fairly certain printed and bound in the USA. And I don't think I ever found the date, but when I bought it, it said it was 120 years old. And I mean, look at it. It's old, but it was in mint condition till I owned it. But I mean, I still keep it. I still keep it very close. I noticed that you put a video up and I left a fresh comment in it. You're like, every time I talk to somebody, they never have anything laying around that has to do with the Mandela effect. I got all sorts of crap right here, easy to grab. So
yeah, Well, a lot of people
Did you
say that.
send it?
Email. Yeah, check your email, and I sent you a picture. And if you can screen share that picture, I want to
Oh, you're
talk about.
killing me. Opening emails while I'm live streaming, that's a lot of work. Am I sharing my email?
I, cou- I couldn't send it into the chat here. It doesn't let me in the Hangout chat. I don't think.
All right, well, it's not even showing, dude.
No.
Let me check spam. You
You
sent
could
it to
literally
Yahoo?
whatever email you've been emailing me from.
Yahoo. It's not here, dude. Imagine that. Oh, I got it. My bad. Here it is.
All right, yeah. Can you screen share that image?
I'll tell you in a minute.
So, guys, where I come from, you know, if you ask anybody, and I do this all the time, I ask people, there you go, buddy. I ask people, hey, where's South America? And I get one of two answers. They either say underneath North America or in the Southern Hemisphere. Now, if you can scroll down on that image a little, Richie, I mean, look at South America, guys. For me, it's about 1,000 miles to the east now, way over to the right. It's not underneath North America really anymore. I mean, you could make an argument that it is a little bit. For me, it was right underneath Central America, which was underneath Mexico. But even the bigger, as big of a pot for me is, dude, my reality where I come from, the Panama Canal always ran east and west. But now, because of the way South America has shifted to the right, 1,000 miles, you see that tip of Central America? It no longer comes in around the top, like say where Venezuela is or Colombia, the top portions. It comes in on the left side of South America, and that forces the canal to be north and south now, Richie. To me, that's gigantic. Gigantic.
Well, the only issue that I have with that is none of us have the ability to go up and take pictures for ourselves. So, not that I'm saying it's not legit. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying what a lot of people are probably thinking. We don't even know what our country. We don't know what anything looks like. If you look at NASA photos, every time you look at the United States, it gets bigger, it gets smaller, it turns green, it turns
Oh,
brown. But I'm hip. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying without a doubt. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
The important thing is though, Richie, if if you can bring it up again, like for instance, Cuba on there. Cuba for me used to be a small island. Cuba now is the size of Florida. And I get this discussion on my geography videos from both sides. The globe people will come in and say you can't use a flat map, you got to move a globe. And then the flat earth people are saying, oh, this is a representation of the globe, you can't use that. It doesn't matter, flat, globe, whatever you're looking at, it's all changed. And the thing is that if this isn't what you remember in your reality, what you learned in school, the important thing is we know
Oh,
maps can
wait a
change.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is Cuba
Yeah, this huge thing is Cuba now. That whole thing.
that almost touches Mexico.
Yep, that whole thing is Cuba now. That
Yeah, that's
gigantic
totally
island.
inaccurate. Cuba used to be over here. I've been to the Bahamas.
Yep.
I've seen Cuba from a plane. So that just kind of steps on what I just said. That ain't it. It isn't
Not
directly below Miami and almost touching Mexico at all. That's
exactly, and
crazy.
that changes the paths that the hurricanes come through, and when people in Florida get warned about when they hit Cuba first, and this
Well,
that changes.
Cuba basically Cuba acts as a wall that would stop storms from coming into the Gulf of Mexico completely. Look at it. It almost blocks it off
Yeah,
completely from the panhandle to
yeah.
Mexico.
It's crazy. And
Excuse
then the
me.
crazy part, Richie, is if you bring up your old school books, Richie. If I bring up my 8th grade school books, these changes are going to be in there. So it's
Oh,
not
you're
just like,
talking to the wrong guy. I didn't have school books
oh,
even
I
when I
know,
was in school,
I
dude.
know. But anybody, okay, people do have things like atlases in their house and encyclopedias still. Some people do. I know everything's the digital age now, but some people still have these. You can bring it out and bring out a map, and it's going to represent what I just showed you. Even if what I just showed you is very foreign to you and it's the first time you've seen it like that, you will bring out your old map and it will represent that.
Hey, let me ask you on a totally different topic. I got home. I was on the road for a month and a day. I got home this past Saturday, so I've been home almost a week. The funny thing is since I got home, when I got back, it was still really windy. It was windy from California all the way to Massachusetts, so much it was affecting the way the truck was driving.
Yeah, I heard you
Since
say
I've
that.
been home, I haven't seen him chemtrail one time. Not once. I've never seen 5 days in a row. And now that I look out my window, the sky looks like somebody it filled it with silk. Like you can't see anything. It's just white, very
Yeah.
silk like. Is it the same in Lowell?
Yeah, it's actually, I've noticed some different things here in Lowell. I've noticed, and I shot a couple videos with my phone. I don't usually like cover chemtrails, and I don't even have a video camera, but I caught a couple of videos off my porch because I've been noticing weird patterns with them, more weird than the normal crisscrossing and things that we shouldn't see. Like I've noticed a lot of them have like a squiggly pattern to it now. I noticed the other day there was one, it was flying in, and another one was merging in with it. It was like two planes merging in with each other, and then two planes crossed in front of their path after. And it's like, man,
Yeah,
it's
that's
crazy.
not how planes. The funny thing about airplanes is when we were younger, this is another Mandela effect type thing, because you ask how some people can't be affected by it. Well, it's the same way some people don't see the skies. They just don't. I mean, the sky's kind of a big thing. Every time you leave a
Yeah.
building, you have the ground you're walking on and the sky above. And yet people don't even look at the sky anymore. They don't see them up there playing checkers and writing their names, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I find it funny that a dude from Lynn found a dude from Lowell from some guy named the Sage of Quay, and I didn't know you were even around. What a trip, huh?
Hey, that's why I say, a lot of people have different opinions on me. They'll have different opinions on you. They'll have different opinions on other shows I go on. But just zip your lip for a minute, watch the show, and see how it goes. See if a conversation is steered the wrong way or anything suspicious is done before you point fingers. I hate when people do that. People like us need to reach
It's
out and bridge communities.
well, you got to remember that not all the trolls that attack and all the channels that make attack videos are even real. Some of them are intelligence. I mean, YouTube, social media, people like me, people like you, people like all the people listening right now are a threat to this entire system. Mainstream news used to tell people what was going on, and never has it been to the point where they're running around trying to ban flat earth. When I heard that, it made me happy, because it took me forever. I'm friends with ODDTV. I've slept on his couch. I know him.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew him before I even believed, because I've been looking at the sky through a telescope since I was 9. I saw Saturn. I've always done it. I've always watched the skies. I started this entire channel because I was pointing my phone up at the chemtrails going, anybody else seeing this? Does this look different? Like, what's going on? It took me forever to come out with the flat earth, because I knew I was going to get it. Oh my, here we go. Unbelievable. Well, listen, when you start looking into the science, Michelson Morley, these guys, Michelson Morley he was the Stephen Hawking's of his day for the most part in physics. He did the test. He wasn't trying to disprove anything. He couldn't prove the earth moved. NASA lying constantly, constant. It's just, there's so many things. How is everyone not affected by the Mandela effect? Well, it's the same way two people can stand outside and look up. One people sees them spraying the skies. The other one thinks the sky is supposed to be white. What a beautiful white day. The sky, the clouds are long and
Yeah,
linear. The
yeah,
sun's a nice white. A beautiful day. When we were
yeah,
kids,
yeah,
the
yeah.
sky was blue, the clouds were fluffy, and the sun was yellow.
As they're staring up, looking at a fake sun.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. And I talk about when I talk about the Mandela effect, sometimes I explain to people, like, because some people say, well, what about those people that are unaffected? Well, there is nobody that's actually unaffected. It does affect everybody, because there's always, even if one or two, and I know people that are listening, there's going to be more than one or two that are going to resonate with you. I probably named 50 that'll resonate with you. There might be some you're just not familiar with either way. There might be some you disagree with. But if even one is real, then this is real. I mean, hands
There's
down, if one is real, then it's real.
there's more than 10 that I can think of off the top of my head, and I have the memory of a hummingbird or some other small, fast-moving creature. Go ahead, take all the time you want, rattle off as many as you can think of. I don't care what genre they are, just have at it. Tell us how many there
Right.
really are.
Dude, so really there are thousands of them. Okay. There have been people doing videos on this. This has been going on a long time.
What are
As
the
far
what are
as
the best channels for the Mandela effect in your opinion? The best YouTube channels?
well, obviously, I would promote my channel, and other people I listen to would be like Moneybag 73. He puts out what a voting videos. He's been really big for the community, since way back in its inception. He puts out videos where he doesn't tell you what it's going to say in the video, and he shows you kind of both sides, and you vote on it. And the amount of votes for what we all remember versus what the current reality, it's just ridiculous. It'll be like 700 to like 30. A guy named Hidden Knowledge is really good for people that are new to it because he presents like 50 or 100 of them in a well polished video. You know how like ODD, for instance, his documentaries are great for new people. You know what I'm saying? This
Yep.
guy, this guy, Hidden Knowledge is kind of like that with the Mandela effect. He's got some really nice videos for people coming in. There's a lot of other shows that I listen to as well, like Quantum of Consciousness. I listen to Scarab Performance. This guy Brian McFarlane, huge shout out to him. He puts a ton of new ones out, and he helped me really get. I did a lot of shows with him when I first got on. So there's a lot of people. We know the YouTube search filters are broken right now, but when they are resolved, if you just type Mandela effect in and go to upload date, and you can still do this on Google and go around the YouTube kind of circumvent it and still get the results. And just go to whose ever channel. It doesn't matter. You'll learn that some ones may not have the best discernment or whatever, but as a whole, the community is pretty good. And just go around and just look for ones that resonate with you. And even if the people don't do the best job presenting it, if they show you something that in reality isn't what you remember at all, and you're sure of it, go do your own research. Go do your own research on that one Mandela effect, and you'll find tons of residue. Like the next one I want to talk about.
Have
You
at
know,
it.
like an anchor one for me, Richie, because not only did I sing this growing up, dude, I go to work and I can't go like a week without people singing it around me. And it's Mr. Rogers' theme song. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Everybody knows it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Okay. The problem is in this reality now, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, is what he says. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Yet anytime, and there are parodies on this are endless. Do you remember Richie, Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live doing Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood?
Well, of course I do. Check this out, though. I just found one from newsmax.com where it shows the actual title. See it?
Yeah.
But and all the other ones say in this neighborhood. I used to watch Mr. Rogers because I knew he was a badass Marine anyway. So no, I didn't, but I'm just saying that now.
So it was a beautiful day in the neighborhood for all of us. Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, Eddie Murphy parodies it. There's been people that
Dude, my bad.
no,
You
go
already
ahead.
told me Tom Hanks has huge links to this. He played Mr. Rogers as well.
Listen. I'm going to get to that. Tom Hanks
All right,
is
my bad. Go ahead.
no. It's all good. So Tom Hanks is going to play him. So Mr. Rogers, right? The theme now says it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. So we're telling everybody about this change, Richie, and they're not paying attention to us. And then you know what happened? Just what happened with Mirror Mirror. Sony Pictures, which has Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers in the upcoming film, it's not out yet. Just about a month ago or 2 months ago, and I did a show that night once I heard this. They said, "Oh, I seen an article come up on CNN. Tom Hanks' Mr. Rogers movie finally has a title named after the popular theme song, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood." Then it puts a clip from the show, and the show has changed. Mr. Rogers comes through the door and says, "This neighborhood." And the headline says right in it, "A beautiful day in the neighborhood," named after the song. Then on top of it, I'm like, wait till this movie comes out and Mr. Rogers, Tom Hanks is gonna come through the door and he's gonna say the neighborhood like we remember, and we're supposedly misremembering. How about this, Richie? Somebody died on the set of the filming of this movie. Mysteriously died. You know who died?
No.
The sound engineer. The first person that would hear
Oh
like
my.
that. He supposedly went out on the porch, smoked a cigarette, and fell off a balcony.
Yeah, well, that can happen. I mean, you light a cigarette, they're really complicated. He might have lost his balance. You know what I mean? Sometimes when
Yeah,
I'm vaping, I fall out of my chair. So, I mean, there's nothing suspicious about that. Come
yeah,
on.
nothing.
You're just making stuff up now, Brian Stavely.
Yeah, and then they did a thing about a few weeks after, right? And I'm like talking about when Tom Hanks comes in the movie, he's gonna say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm gonna go see this movie. It's bothering me so much. Richie, I haven't been to a movie in 20 years, probably. All right, I'm gonna go see this movie. He comes out with a choir, Richie. They were in the rain. This is real creepy. You got to see the video after. And they start singing "It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood" with about 50 people, including Tom Hanks. And they say "the neighborhood" as like a promotion for the movie. And it's already happened. And Tom Hanks is tied into So many Mandela effects. Okay, so we all know that Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates, or maybe we don't all know, but now it's life was like a box of chocolates. But the movie continues to change. For instance, a newer one that a lot of people don't know yet is he used to say, I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is. He said that to Jenny. Now it's, I'm not a smart man. Sure, it might be a small change to some. If you Google, I may not be a smart man and hit images, you'll see so many memes that everybody's made of this quote
Brian,
that it's,
Brian, say that again. What did he say, and what does he say now? Because I missed it.
he used to say, I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is.
Okay.
Now he says, I'm not a smart man instead of I may not be, which was an iconic line. It wasn't just I'm not a smart man. It was I may not be a smart man. If you put it in Google and hit images, you'll see all the memes. And then he's in a movie about CERN and the Vatican where he's like using CERN to save the Vatican, right? Parts of it were filmed at CERN. And then to make it even better, in the Da Vinci Code, if you remember the Da Vinci Code movie that he did, I
Of
wasn't a big
course.
fan of it. Seen it like once. And yes, we're going to get into that right there. So he was in the Da Vinci Code, and they actually mock the Mandela effect within the movie. There is a scene where, because now in the Last Supper and the Holy Grail has never been on the table in the Last Supper. So there's a scene in the movie where this guy with Tom Hanks brings a girl up, tells her to close her eyes. He starts talking about the Last Supper painting that's in front of her, asks her what she sees and how many glasses on the table or cups, and she says one, the Holy Grail. He says, "Open your eyes." And there's nothing. He's like, there is no cup there. Isn't that a bit strange that everybody's been talking about it for thousands of years? He goes into this whole spiel. And then I find the headline you brought up. I find this after I'm done that show. Or as I was researching for it. Tom Hanks was selected to turn on CERN in 2009. Now, whether you believe the claims in and around CERN or you don't, and I know we might differ on that a little, Richie, but that doesn't matter. If this is a real thing or not, like, why would they let an actor that is totally unqualified to hit the switch of a machine that can allegedly do the things that it boasts? It's ridiculous to me. But he has all these ties to the Mandela effect, and now with the Mr. Rogers thing and Apollo 13. Let's talk about NASA for a minute. Lots of NASA, people that research NASA in this community. Now, this one's going to be hard for people to grasp because it's already changed back. But we actually have ones that flip flop. And Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks flip flopped. The most famous quote in American history, one of them, Houston, we have a problem. It actually changed in the Apollo 13 movie, in the actual NASA archive. So we're all in the YouTube comments going nuts for about a month, and then it changed back. It changed back to what it was, and we all saw it flip flop. So he's involved in that as well. Other things with NASA, Richie. I grew up with daylight savings time. That's what I grew up with. Everybody knows daylight savings time. I got tons of residue on it. Now it's daylight saving time. Sure, small thing maybe, but Halley's Comet, everybody knows Halley's Comet. Never been Halley's. Now it's been Halley's. But one of the bigger ones, I think, for the flat Earth community is Werner von Braun. We have talked about Operation Paperclip over and over and over. We have talked about Werner von Braun and all his ties to NASA and all of that. We have shown pictures of Werner von Braun's headstone with the scripture on there about the firmament. We've shown people pictures of that and made memes. And I even have made memes where I put the text on there with his name and it has his tombstone. There's an H in his name now. His name was not Werner. His name was Werner. Werner von Braun. Now it's Werner. My buddy Nathaniel brought up so much residue of this, so many newspaper articles, publications, magazines. There was no H in there. It was Werner. It was not Werner von Braun. I know a lot of people might not pick up on that, but that is just so foreign to me, and it's changed on his headstones. People have sent me their memes that they made a while back where they would write about Werner von Braun. Dude, they all write Werner, Werner, just like I would, on the same picture that shows the headstone that now has an H. So it's changed. That's
That
crazy.
H doesn't, that H looks so wrong, dude. I've looked at this headstone for at least 10 years. That
Mm-hmm.
looks so wrong. It looks like it was put there.
Yeah,
That
and it's
does
made.
not look accurate.
Isn't that insane, bro? So this should resonate with a lot of people.
What?
Also, that Yeah, isn't look at that H, bro. Doesn't it look so crazy? Weren't
It
her?
it doesn't make any sense, man. That freaks me out because
And
I've
you
used
guys
this
all,
as a thumbnail in videos numerous times.
yep. And now your videos that
Wow.
use that will reflect this change, Richie. They'll reflect this change. Um, a couple other big ones that people will know, certain names that have changed of like huge, like so when you're looking into different topics, Richie, and you look up into evolution or the Big Bang or dinosaur. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we obviously know is, and there's Sally Field, who used to be Sally Fields for me.
And just a side note, I grew up watching Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds, and I thought Sally Fields was the hottest person in the world. And she's got some strange things going on. And conveniently enough, her brother is a he works at CERN, and
Allegedly, the lead.
apparently they watched their mother star in Hollywood's first science fiction film, The Man from Planet X. Sweet,
Yeah.
sweet. Go ahead, brother. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no, it's good that you brought up that one because that's one of the biggest ones. Her whole speech that has been quoted by Obama, quoted by all the talk shows, all the daily shows in the
Quoted
morning.
by everybody over the years, dude.
Yeah, you like me. You really like me. It's now you like me. Right now you like me. And it was always you like me. You really. She's even quoted it herself on talk shows saying, it's like my speech. You like me. You really like me. It was said over and over again. But that's changed. She's also involved in many Mandela effects. If you think about her connection to Tom Hanks' life is like a box of chocolates. Who was he quoting? He was quoting Sally Fields. She was his mother. That's her. That's her quote from the movie.
Oh,
He
dude, I didn't even think of that. That they were both in the
yeah,
same. Oh my, I didn't even
those
think of
those are
that.
her words. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy the amount of residue on that one, Richie. For that, definitely check out Moneybags channel, guys. Moneybags has 2 Sally Fields videos that are excellent, and you guys will really like his Mandela effect voting video list. Um, Richie, if I was to say to you, and if you already looked this up, we'll pass it on to the audience. But if I was to say to you, what does the DEA stand for? What would you say? Without,
Drug Enforcement Agency.
and what about the chat? Can we ask the chat real quick before you bring it up on the screen?
Have
Chat,
at it.
what do you guys think the DEA stands for? I think everybody would say the Drug Enforcement Agency. This is like, do you know what the FBI stands for? I mean, come on. The Drug Enforcement Agency has never been a thing. DEA does not stand for that. DEA now and has always, in this reality, stood for the Drug Enforcement Administration. That is crazy to me. Another one that is huge, and I'll just rattle off a few. We were talking about the museums a minute ago, dinosaur bones and whatnot. The most famous museum in the United States, hands down, is the Smithsonian Institute. Have you heard of the Smithsonian Institute, Richie?
Of course.
Everybody's heard of the Smithsonian Institute, I assume. Well, you guys are all crazy. You're all just misremembering. You're all falling for Brian Staveley's psyop because it never existed. And in this reality, it's all been the Smithsonian Institution. The Smithsonian Institution? What? What? It's crazy. Grand Central Station, dude. How many times? And we're from Boston. We're not from New York, Richie. But we've heard this. I'm sure tourists all over the world say it. You're getting swamped. You're at work. Oh, it's busier than Grand Central Station in here. I'm sure you've
Right.
heard that thing.
Yep.
Grand Central Station hasn't been called. It's been called Grand Central Terminal for over 100 years. Supposedly, it was only Grand Central Station around like 1906 or something, and for like 3 or 4 years, it's been Grand Central Terminal ever since. And they say we're confusing it with the subway below. Get the f out of here, dude.
Oh
Grand Central
wow.
Terminal. Even people in New York are blown away by this, dude. Blown away.
And again, for the people right now that just jumped in and they're shaking their heads, going, "Well, those are just names. People could be misremembering wrong." The thing that the thing that led me to believe that this was completely real. I mean, people. I've seen the comments on your chat like, "Oh, Richie's not going to go for." I made videos a few years ago debunking this, and I was wrong. And I left the videos up because I always, even if I'm wrong, I'm still going to leave them up. But if you've listened to me over the years, you've heard me numerous times talk about the 6-seater versus the 4-seater, JFK's assassination. You've heard me talk about the tank man, Tiananmen Square. I didn't know about Ed McMahon, and that's just blows my mind because everyone remembers getting the envelopes with his picture on it. You could be next. It was from Publishers Clearinghouse. No two ways about it. We've got video with Johnny Carson handing David Letterman a check in Ed McMahon's name from Publishers Clearinghouse, etc. And now they're telling us that's completely wrong. But the one about the Statue of Liberty being attacked and the torch being shut down, I know people and you know people that have been there, and they're telling us that that's completely and totally wrong. And if you don't believe that, here's a stained glass window from 1916, even though it looks brand spanking new, in a Catholic church in Jersey City, New Jersey. So everybody was wrong. You're all misremembering. Nothing to see here. It's Sally Field. Unbelievable.
Crazy. Famous art. We can talk about art and monuments for a minute. You showed that
The Thinker and Mona Lisa.
The Thinker. I want to talk about the Thinker, and I want to talk about the Adam and God on the Sistine Chapel roof. There's a picture that supposedly, people would refer to it as like the hand of God or the hand of creation, where Adam is reaching up. And while you got the Thinker up, we'll talk about the Thinker real quick because the Thinker is huge. The Thinker, for me, in my reality. And he has. While you show that, Richie, let me gonna send you a couple pictures real quick. Hang on, these people got to see this. This is crazy. Give me 1 second. I'm already into my pictures right now. I just want to send you a couple of the Thinker. I gotta show these people. You can hear me, right?
Brown Eyes Rule. Thank you. Yes, it used to be Berenstein. You're right. You're totally right. Hope said, this guy is great, RFB. Well, thanks, Hope, and subscribe to his channel. Links are in the description. It's Brian Staveley. I spelt it wrong, or did I? Is it a Mandela effect? Is he even real? Is he my secretly twin brother that I lost a long time ago, but he still has my hat? Nobody knows. Dolly's braces. Dolly's braces from, what was it, Moonraker?
Yeah, that's huge for people. The only reason I don't talk about that is because I just hadn't seen the movie, really, So
yeah, but the guy that was the giant dude with the metal mouth said that she had braces. So that's crazy. Hey, you guys could hit that thumbs up button if you wanted. I mean, there's 3,000 people and not even 1,000 thumbs up. That's lame.
Yeah, hit the thumbs up, Richie.
Check bands. I'll do a video on it later. The question that you're asking, I will do a video on it later because I just got into this about a week ago. I just started talking to Brian, and like I said, I had no clue.
I sent you some pictures to your email, Richie. If you can get those ready, they're for the Thinker. I sent you like 4 or 5 of them. Now the Thinker statue.
Stand by. Just real quick, I want to answer this one dude. R. Heidman says, you know that a 2-row car back in the day was a 6-seater, caps for visual only. Okay, well then, if we're all misremembering, don't you think a museum that would be commemorating and having an exact replica would have got that right? Because this is a museum, one of 2 in the world, and it's showing a 4-seater. Exactly like all of us remembered. And the reason most of us remember that this was a 4-seater, because some years ago, a new conspiracy popped up that it was actually the driver of the car. The Secret Service agent turned around and gave Kennedy the coup d'etat. He shot him in the head, which is why Jackie O tried to climb off the back of the car. In a 6-seat vehicle, that wouldn't work. In a 6-seat vehicle, the magic bullet theory wouldn't work. So we're not misremembering. And if we are, well, apparently the museum is as well. Do you see what I'm saying? That's an exact replica of the car in Dallas, Assassination Day, John F. Kennedy. This is not Richie from Boston or Brian Staveley's museum. Just saying. All right, Brian, go ahead, man. My bad.
No, that's a great point, man. You're really nailing it with the JFK, man. I really like it. The Thinker statue, now for me and for so many others, the Thinker statue always had his fist to forehead like this. Now, there is tons of residue of this, and we're going to show some images in a second. Before we do, there's a clip, for instance, on Saturday Night Live, like we talked about with the I Love Lucy and all these parodies. Will Ferrell goes out there. You guys know Will Ferrell. He's a famous comedian, famous from Saturday Night Live as well back in the day. So he comes out, and he's supposedly posing for an art class. So he's like naked, but he's like behind a piece of cardboard or whatever. And he's like, I got 2 poses for you. The thinker, boom, fist to forehead, slow and methodical and precise. I got the thinker or I got the stinker. And he puts his like butt out in the air, some, immature joke or whatever. And then, the thinker pose is actually a bodybuilding pose now because the statue was so iconic. This is actually a pose in bodybuilding competitions. I sent you a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger doing it, if you can show it. Guys, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's doing the thinker of the statue pose. If you can bring up next to George Bernard Shaw, he's the one man doing it by himself in the image. And we'll go past that. We'll come back to that in a second. And go past that. We'll come back to those 2 for a reason. Okay, so the kid, these ones. So George Bernard Shaw, shown in the pose of the thinker. And you guys can read the whole article for it. I don't have the link handy. Easy to find on Google. George Bernard Shaw thinker pose. You read a whole write-up about it, how he was mimicking Rodin's fist to the forehead. Okay? Richie, if you can now, show the one with the woman in front of the statue. So this woman, okay, she traveled all the way to the statue. She put her fist to the forehead to mark the statue that she's in front of. But since the statue is now fist to chin, which none of us, some people remember, but the majority of us do not remember it like that. These parodies do not match. But the statue, since it's changed in reality, her photograph has changed. Like I told you guys about my C-3PO with the black gloves. Do you think she would have traveled there, Richie, and got right down, kneeled in front of it, and done the exact wrong pose? And if we are doing the wrong pose, why are we all doing the same wrong pose? Why aren't some people putting their fist to their ear? Why aren't some people putting their hand on their chest? Why aren't some people scratching their chin? No, they're all doing. This one's great, Richie. So this is a field trip, right? They're in front of the statue. The statue you see is fist to chin. Look at every single kid. They have their fist.
And kids are pretty good at this stuff, mimicking and such. You know what I'm saying? Remember when you were a kid? Every one of them is doing it wrong, according to the statue that we see right now. I can't comment on this because I don't remember it. Because to me, honestly, that his chin, it looks fine to me, but I don't remember it, so I have nothing to say. Yeah, but these kids right here, every one of them is doing it the exact wrong way.
Exact wrong way, but they're all in front of it. It's because
that's crazy.
And there, I have a video on the thinker statue again. And when you guys sub my channel, I'm sure a lot of you guys will. All my videos are on the Dose of Reality list, but right underneath that list is a Mandela effect short list. I have one for the thinker as well, where you'll just see tons and tons and tons of residue. This stuff is happening. It's all facets of life.
Let me ask you something. What do you think goes through this guy's head where he thinks that this is a good picture? Because I think that's gross. I don't want to see some old guy sitting naked or on a toilet or on a bucket or whatever he's doing. That's gross. Artist people are gross, man. At any rate.
I don't know, man. He doesn't. He's dropping a deuce or something gross.
Right? Shitting in a drywall bucket.
Yeah.
At any rate.
Big one I want to talk about. I like to talk about incremental changes a lot. And, I want to talk about something from the English language before I forget. So there is actually words that are changing, spelling of words. There's actually
stand by before you even say it. Everybody in the chat, I'm watching right now, and so is Brian. Spell the word dilemma.
There you go. That's what I'm getting into. Perfect. I'm gonna get a drink.
Shannon Slays, I don't watch porn. I haven't watched porn in years, and I was never a big strip club guy. It didn't make any sense to pay there, and it felt strange watching someone dance in front of you. You know what I mean? When you know it's not real. So Shannon Slays, I'm looking right at your comment there, ma'am. Dilemma. Oh, everybody's spelling it wrong right off the bat, I think. I see
a change, and now I see about half and half. It's going so fast. I'll explain.
Well, just put your cursor on it and stop it, because we got a lot of dilemmas. We got a dilemma here, brother. For the most part, the majority are writing Dilemma. Dilemma for the most part. Couple with just one A.
You also got to ask people who's being spell corrected on it, because the spell check is changing them in chats as well. That happens.
So break it down. Where are we at?
So for me, the word dilemma was Dilemna.
Me
And,
too.
you know, you too. And so, Richie, you know, people say maybe you just can't spell. People say you guys are just misremembering. So now we can't spell, me and you. We also misremembering. Where me and you, Richie, along with thousands or millions of others, dare I say, are also spelling the exact same word wrong. We're also putting the exact same wrong letter. But the best part, Richie, we're putting a friggin' silent N in a word where it doesn't belong. Like, why would we ever do that?
Exactly. That's a great point. I love when people break it down so everyone can understand it. Dilemma, if I was in a spelling bee, and I'm pretty decent at spelling, even though it doesn't reflect it, because when I type, I hit send and I don't check them. So don't bust my balls for that. Dilemma is Dilemna. Why would you put a silent N in there for no particular reason whatsoever at all? What's the change? How is it spelled? Let me Google it right this moment.
Spelled with a double M now.
Are you shitting me?
I'm dead serious, bro. Double M. You'll get spell corrected on it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about spell correction. Spell correction actually has a hard time keeping up with the Mandela effect sometimes. It's crazy. Like the word will change. You'll get spell checked like a few weeks later, and then you'll just get spell checked on it forever.
Okay, here it is.
Oh
The
yeah, they'll tell
word
you.
dilemma with two M's doesn't even make sense to me at all. It looks like dilly ma. Yo, what's the dilly ma? What's the
What's the
dilly
deal?
MMA?
It's crazy.
That's
And
crazy.
a couple of other big ones for me is the word aggravate. How would you spell aggravate?
Aggravate, Aggravate.
Oh, okay, so you are different than me on that one. I would spell it with an e as that second vowel. And the thing with these words, and a lot of people agree on this one. And like I said, it doesn't mean one of us is wrong. If we disagree, we're going to disagree. Even me and the people that are the most highly affected, we'll agree on like are the ones that we both have an opinion on. We'll agree on 80 or 90%. But there are ones with residue to back both that it's been more than one way that we are not wrong. But for instance, with aggravate and the word separate, words that for me, they have changed. If you were to Google the word aggravate right there, you see how it tells you it's a misspelling, Richie?
Where
Like
does
in
it
all
say
the
it's a
articles.
misspelling?
No, if you type quotations, if you put quotations up top and type aggravate with an E, you put an E in there and put quotations around the word on both sides.
Well, that's funny because I've got paperwork with aggravated assault.
Yes, and if you back the date up, this is what I do, Richie. I'll put a word like that in, but then I'll change the search filters on Google and I'll search from like 2000 to 2009, right? And instead of getting all these things below that tell you, oh, you are misspelling aggravate with an A and this and that, you'll get all articles that link back to medical journals about aggravated shoulders and all of this stuff, and you're not getting spell corrected when you search results from a decade ago
That's
because the
crazy, dude. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Another one is the word judgment. And even in your Bibles, it's changed. But for me, the place where I've noticed it the most, the word judgment does not have that first E anymore. It's Judgment, not the word judge and the word meant. The most noticeable place for me is Terminator 2. Terminator 2 was called Judgment Day. It was one of the best movies ever. Look at a Terminator 2 poster now and look at Judgment Day. It's missing that first E. It looks ridiculous.
What?
That's how you spell judgment, Richie, and it's always been that way. And if you think differently, you're misremembering like me, and you're a bad speller.
Wow. Well, I can't argue with that. I could be a bad speller and I got a terrible memory. But I mean, again, for people that are looking at this going, well, that's just people misremembering or misspelling or, things like that. I get it because I was in the same boat. But Tiananmen Square, dude, I remember when it came on the news because this is back when we only had channel 4, 5, and 7, 38, 56. This is very graphic. If there's anybody around, it was a bloody mess. The tank ran the dude over, which is why he's the tank guy. Do you think China would have celebrated the fact that one of their citizens stood down a column of tanks? Hell no, it never would have made the news. You know what I mean? And now it's completely changed. Instead of the tank running him over, he runs on top of the tank. And again, this is a museum with an exact replica of the car Kennedy was assassinated in. One, two seats, one windshield. And then the Zapruder film. I can't find. I can't say I can't find it. I didn't look for any alternate views on the Zapruder film because I'm still trying to catch up with a month's worth of emails and comments and text and blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's crazy because I mean there's the Zapruder film that was taken the day he was shot. You can see the car. There it is. Boom. Windshield. Museum with an exact replica of the 1963 Lincoln convertible. 4 seats, 2 people, 1 windshield. This changed. Ed McMahon, come on, man. Everybody knows he was the Publishers Clearinghouse. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows, so everybody is affected whether they deny it or not. And I do think there are levels. Some people are barely affected, but they are affected because there's always something that they know. And I think when people have their cognitive D-ups so thick, like you said, how people can both look at the sky and see 2 different things, I think the way that people can perceive these changes, I think their cognitive go back to that Ford logo. Yeah, I think their cognitive D can really block them. So the Ford logo is huge, guys, and everybody's had a Ford or knows somebody that has. I mean, it's one of the biggest car companies in the world.
Brian,
Definitely.
I grew up in Lynn, dude. We all had Pit Bulls and Mustang 5.0, so I'm familiar with Ford.
And I bet you when you grew up, your Ford didn't have that squiggly thing coming off the lower line or that F.
No, it didn't. What about the VW sign? Didn't you say something was different about that?
Yeah, the VW sign used to not have that gap between the V and the W in the middle of the logo.
At all. At all.
At all. And there's so much residue. People with medallions of this. There's actually a few pictures that we happen to have from cars. One of them that's huge is in Back to the Future. Okay, now Back to the Future is like Star Wars and it's like The Wizard of Oz. In fact, on my Mandela Effect shortlist, it's the only movie I completely broke down in a short video so far because there's so many changes in that movie. The biggest one, not the big, one of the biggest ones, and change first, is when the terrorists roll up, the Libyans roll up in Back to the Future in the parking lot scene, and they shoot Dog, and Marty takes off in the time machine and goes back to 85. They used to roll up in a Toyota van. Now they roll up in this blue and white Volkswagen van. It looks like a big bubble. The crazy part is, Richie, they roll up, and it's even got the old Volkswagen logo on it that I remember without the gap. In the middle of the scene, Richie, the logo changes to the logo that has the gap. In the middle of the movie.
That's crazy. This, I just typed in 2014 and prior. So older VWs. The funny thing is I just, not this past month, but January, I went out to California and I was at a VW conference where everybody had a restored VW van in Lake Havasu. And I've got pictures of these, so I'm going to have to go through them. But this doesn't even look right with the gap here. That doesn't look right. We've all seen the VW because it's the 666. We've seen it a bazillion times. That isn't accurate. But then this is on the internet, so it could have been changed, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? But it just does not look right.
It's not changed. The thing is, people will say, "Oh, you just don't know about logo changes, whatnot." We don't think we research this. People, I don't mean you, Richie. I mean people in general. They don't think we research this and see if a company has changed names or if there's been a redistribution of a product or a company swallowed up another product. This site's called Logopedia and things like this, and you can go in any of these products, Richie, any of these companies. You can look for these logo changes and all that, and there's never been a change. There was never a Ford allegedly without that curl. There was never a Volkswagen without that gap. But the products, it's crazy. One that I have an anchor memory for, and I think you might resonate with this, Richie, is, a lot of jokes are made. Hey, what are we having for Thanksgiving? Well, we're certainly not going to have stovetop stuffing. Stovetop stuffing was a really popular thing for me. It was something that, every kid had, every family, I thought.
You and Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle really enjoyed it as well. Go ahead.
Do you remember stovetop?
Dude, I used to eat. I'd come home completely so drunk, I don't remember where I parked my motorcycle or my car at all. And I would really poorly make a box of stuffing and just eat it, leave half of it on top of the oven, half on the floor. But it was always Stouffer's. It wasn't Kraft. And did I just blow it?
It's all right, because anybody out there that knows stovetop stuffing, it's never been Stouffer's. It's always been Kraft. The creepy thing is the box even looks the same. It's got the same red and yellow coloring on it, Richie. Like, it looks like the stovetop box. It says Kraft. But Stouffer's did not sell their stuffing nor any part of their company to Kraft. I went and looked back at the business dealings that they've had. There was no change stovetop stuffing has never existed in this reality. That's
Okay,
crazy.
Somebody in the chat, I just lost his name, asked me to ask you a question on a YouTuber named Not of This Timeline said, can you ask Brian about Christopher Reeves and Eminem?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's his video because I mirror his video sometimes. The chatter you said, or it might be somebody else's. But okay, where I come from, Richie, Superman in the 80s, late 70s, played by Christopher Reeves. Without a doubt, strong memories of this for me. In this reality, he's
You're
always
actually
been.
wearing a Superman shirt, right? Or you were
No, the other day.
yesterday. All right.
In this reality, it's always been Christopher Reeve. Now, the residue on this is remarkable. We got Robin Williams, who used to be his roommate, by the way. They're like best friends, or obviously they were. Calling him Christopher Reeves. We got Dick Clark introducing him as Christopher Reeves. We also have Pawn Stars, a very popular show where somebody brought in a Superman costume from the movie set that, probably worth 10, 20 grand. Who knows what it's worth? They went to get it appraised. They went and brought back a special person that appraises that, where he's looking at the tags inside. It had Christopher Reeves embroidered on the tag. And Richie, I know you grew up probably watching Superman like I did. When
Yep.
Superman had those graphics on the title screen at that time, those big CGI lettering, that was a big deal. And it said Reeves. And now it says Reeve on my own movies. That's huge for me. But my favorite piece of Mandela effect residue out of all the Mandela effects might be that Eminem clip. And you probably won't want to play it right now because it's just full of cuss words, but we can link it after or whatever. So if you type in Eminem, Christopher Reeves,
Well,
Mandela.
I remember when Eminem came up and his whole thing. I mean, he went after everybody, but he specifically went after Christopher Reeves, and it was a big deal because he was handicapped, and you can't do that.
It's how he launched his career. Christopher Reeves and his
Without a
mother.
doubt.
There's his two targets, right? His own mother and Christopher Reeves. And if you listen to those Eminem clips, which is what one of the users put together and made a mashup, it's only about 4 minutes long. It's got about 50 songs in it, and in every single one, Eminem is calling him Reeves with an S. He used this. Now, at the time, Eminem was a no-name rapper trying to launch his career. You don't want to get that wrong. It's not going to help your cause, okay? He's going to get it right. And he said Reeves every time. And only the very first, that's it right there. Yeah. And only the very first one can be mistaken as in the possessive. Yeah. Fast forward right there and just play a little bit. You'll hear it. Reeves, over and over.
Oh, no, I'm not. I can't play this. I'll get hit
Yeah,
instantly.
don't do that then.
It would waste a whole 2-hour live stream. I'll leave links in the description. I'll leave links to Not of This Timeline from another YouTube channel who only has 62 subscribers, which is really lame. So I just subscribed. Not of This Timeline from another. And he put this up there. And there's a guy named Brian Staveley with 2 E's. Obviously, he's been Mandela affected commenting. So
can I
at any rate, see if we can help him out. Yeah, I can't. I don't want to play anything.
No, don't. Because
I don't want to do that for the majority of my subscribers. Anyways, they'll hate it. If you want to find this, I know this song by heart. So.
Oh, it's not just one song. It's about 50 songs of him doing it all in one.
Well, I find it strange that, Tom Hanks, Sally Fields, all of these people have ties to CERN. The VW logo changes exponentially. Just looking at it, you can tell it's wrong. And I mean, as a matter of fact, I've got to take a look in the chat, Brian, see if anyone's got a question for you. I'm going to see if I can pull up any of the VW. I took pictures of Volkswagen vans ad nauseum on my phone. I'm looking them up right now.
Okay, cool.
There was no dash, dude. The VW, that was all one. Dude, I got a picture right here.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
Well, look at. Can you see this? Stand by. Can you see this? This is off my phone from California on a redone truck. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see the dash?
I do see a line there, yeah.
It's filled in, but it's not empty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Here's another picture.
I got a couple questions from the chatter. Oh, dude, Richie, somebody. Yeah, exactly. Somebody in the chat asked about something I just emailed you. So if you can bring up the images I just sent you, I sent you about 8 or 9 images at once. They want me to talk about the jet engines.
You're killing me with that. All right, stand by. My screen sharing, I don't want to give anyone's email away.
Yeah.
All right, stand by.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
talk to the chat, brother. Let me find this.
In my reality, if you were to look at a commercial airliner at any time in your life, the engines were under the wings. I mean, that's just, common sense. Hang on, somebody's coming home. Let me move into my room so I have privacy. All right. So now, if you see those images, Richie, when you get to them, and that's from a video game called Just Cause 2 for PlayStation 4. The reason I use the video game because that's exactly how I remember airplanes looking with the jet engines under the wing. If you look at commercial airliners now, from whatever year you want, the jet engines are like way out in front of the wing now, almost like you look at it and like, how could these things even be supported? How are they held up by the wings? They're not even under the wings anymore. And I know that's a big one for a lot of people. My friend Flat Earth Falker, give him a shout out, who's the one that told me about your Bible video that you did a couple years ago that we talked about. This is his biggest one. This is a huge one for him. Look at the engines, how out in the front they are now rather than underneath. You see that?
I'm looking. Oh, that's a weird. That ain't real.
Yeah, but that's a weird looking plane. But even the most normal, allegedly normal, see that right there? See how far the engines are forward?
Yeah, I can't come. To me, I mean, I build stuff. If you gave me enough parts and pieces, I'd build you that plane. That doesn't look like the best way to do it. I mean, the wings back here and the engines, all the weight, almost all the weight. If we remember the Pentagon and 9/11 and everything else, where the jet engines just magically
Yep.
disappeared or turned into liquid, they weigh an enormous amount. It's titanium. It's incredibly strong, heavy, dense materials. I'm not getting you a good picture here, but I mean, look at, they're all pushed forward. I find that
Yeah.
strange, dude.
Way forward, Richie. They weren't like that. It doesn't even make any sense to design it like that. There's no
That's
support.
actually crazy, dude. The engine literally is in front of the wing as opposed to under. All of them. Dude, look at this.
All of them.
So the engine's on a little thing. All that weight is somehow supported. The wings are also allegedly filled with gasoline. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that one more, but that is trippy. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I can't say anything on that. All right,
No, it's
listen. We've been going for 2 hours. I got some stuff to do. I gotta go put fluid in my rear end. I know that sounds strange, but it's my truck and not my rear end. I didn't think of it till after I said it. Brian, I'm going to have you back on. I'm going to do a little bit more research so I can be a little bit more educated on a couple of things like this, like the mechanics of this. I know there's a couple of pilots watching right now. I know there's a couple of guys that have jumped out of these things. Do you guys remember the engines being this far forward? I mean, that's just it doesn't look like it's a sound setup, like all the weight. I don't know. At any rate, Brian, I really appreciate you coming on. We banged out 2 hours. We can do this again anytime you want. We got 3,000 people watching steady. We've only got 40 thumbs down. It is what it is. I know. Bob Barker. Bob Barker said fluid in the rear. It happens, dude. Wait till you're 51.
Oh man. Yeah, if everybody can, if you can, just please sub my channel. I do tons of Mandela I also talk about other things like flat earth, and I don't talk about 9/11 anymore. I had to pull all my content down because of YouTube censorship.
Don't even say we are the Twin Towers, the tragedy that occurred, the day that America's our third worst attack.
Yeah, I can't even talk about it anymore. So tons of Mandela Effect content. I probably do a video a day now. Every Saturday I do a long show, like 2 or 3 hours with Paul Knight and Gloria Canada. Both their channels are linked on the side of mine. Make sure you sub. But yeah, make sure you sub my channel and sub my backups, which you can find, on the.
So what are you saying? Do you want people to sub your channel? Is that what you're saying? Without
Yeah,
I
man,
see
I'm
what you're
trying to
saying.
get the message out.
All right. Let's
I
just jump
appreciate
into the chat one more time. And again, guys, watching the chat go by, it's flying. So I have a hard time reading things that aren't moving. So, all right, Cecilia Tabelloni, Cecilia. I can't say that. Tabelloni, whatever it is. And anyway, Helen K, Sin Slayer, Ron Sheckelson, Oy vey, indeed. K Dimensions, Bob, Tom Paint, thanks. Really Cold, that guy that raps, to Hawk Davidson, Method Marine, Undertaker, Yeshua My All, Exposing the Dirty Few, all my subs, Groot after Groot after Groot. His name changes more than anything I've ever seen. It's like a Mandela effect.
Yeah.
All right, links to Brian will be in the description. And if you want to go over to his channel, I'm sure he's going to do a video soon where he mentions all the best channels in his opinion. Richie from Boston, Brian from Lowell, we are out.